Well, hello and welcome to Momentous Live, episode 132. I'm Tristan Jutra.
I'm Will Silver.
And I'm Greg Williams.
And once again, we are without the lovely and talented Tasia Custodi. Fingers crossed to have her back next week when she boots her mum out of the house, back to Toronto. We miss you, Tasia. If you want to find out more about Tasia and the rest of the Momentous crew and all our YouTube videos and podcasts, check out www.momentous.tv. All right, let's start with some follow-up, shall we? Just a little bit. Last week we talked about Meta unveiling the latest version of their Ray-Ban quasi-smart glasses, and the reviews are starting to come in now, and it sounds like they're not too shabby. A few upgrades from the first iteration, better picture quality, better audio quality, hands-free photo messaging, Instagram live streaming abilities, sleeker charging case. Apparently the AI features aren't super useful yet, the Meta AI assistant, and limited functionality outside of Meta's ecosystem. So I have to admit, I was taking a look at the first generation of these Ray-Ban Meta glasses previously, and I thought that'd be kind of neat. I would not want to be locked into Meta's ecosystem. I would want to be using for recording anywhere. The deal breaker for me was the square video image, and they've made it worse because now it's just vertical video, and I would like to see landscape video, please, so you can use it in normal long form video content, not just short form video. So that's it for me. But otherwise, they're kind of normal looking glasses. Will, you're Mr. Ray-Ban.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I need them, especially unless somebody was going to give me a pair for free. I just don't know what
you could live stream your cats to Instagram.
I could do that now.
Was that a sick cat sound?
Yeah.
Okay, but how about your wife? She's a Ray-Ban aficionado as well. You could trick her. You could just say, "Hey, I got you some new sunglasses." You're like, "Oh, thanks," and then
because that always works out in a relationship.
Great. How about you? Are you interested in putting anything on your face from Meta or otherwise?
Otherwise, yes. Meta, no. The missed opportunity here, I think, is 3D pictures and 3D video. There are two lenses there.
But there's not. That's the thing. There's only one side is the light. The other side, there's only one lens. So I get what you're saying. 3D would be awesome.
They should put a second lens in, and we could party like it was 2015.
Exactly. Now, see, if it was Apple doing it, then that would be some easy way to capture content for the Apple Vision Pro, which you're, spending, I don't know, 7 times as much for, or what have you. But the content capture side of that is a big deal, and I guess they're just going to get people to use their iPhones. And even though the cameras aren't that far apart, I mean, they'll do some computational hoosafudge. But no, you make a great point, Gray. Like, why not have dual lenses there and get a bit of stereoscopic imaging going on? Maybe that'll be for version 3. Mm-hmm. We shall see. Next up, it's kind of follow-up, but not really. Last week we were talking a bit about Amazon's Project Kuiper to put a constellation of 3,400 or so satellites up into orbit. And an announcement from a sister company, Blue Origin, also owned by our Jeff Bezos, a founder and former CEO of Amazon. Blue Origin has unveiled something called Blue Ring, which is a multi-use space platform meant to aid missions to Earth orbit and beyond. So they announced this on a blog post on Monday, and the idea is that it would serve commercial and government customers with in-space logistics and delivery, including cloud computing for missions and medium Earth orbit out to the cislunar region and beyond. So this sounds like it's an embryonic way station of sorts. Great. What is the importance of this kind of logistics component to orbital activities and beyond?
This is to space travel as charging stations are to your Tesla. Basically, this new burning ring of Bezos is it's the hop, skip, and a jump between missions. So you can get up in orbit, up to a platform like this. Great, you can refuel, you can get on your way. What that does mean is that you can actually have this, like I said, way station where you can catch a breather, maybe go use the restroom, maybe get a couple of chocolate bars,
Get some Hot Pockets.
a CAA triptych, right? And then get on your way. Some liquid oxygen wouldn't be the worst thing either, and maybe some helium-3. Yeah.
So we all know that the heavy lift, so to speak, is getting things into orbit, and including the fuel in the rockets that you're using to get to orbit itself. Now, I think one of the big issues with any of this is just what you're going to use for fuel for getting beyond orbit. And if they, we're all waiting for fusion. Honestly, there are, fission I don't know if there are fission reactors in any current. There are radioactive elements in certain far-reaching missions, like such as Voyager, but this is basically powering the instruments based on a little bit of radiation emitting from some elements on board. But we haven't really seen much in the way of nuclear-powered craft yet, have we?
Not a whole lot. No, we have seen some, and to be honest, I don't think we'll actually see a whole lot leaving our orbit. If we're smart, I think we're probably going to be looking at fusion fuel taken from further out and brought back in. Anytime we start to put new, fissile-ready material into orbit, we're one bad day away from Fallout 5.
Right. So maybe not that kind of stuff at the gas station in the sky.
No, I don't think so. I prefer not.
All right. Speaking of space and other space news, unprecedented quake on Mars wasn't caused by what you think. So apparently Mars doesn't have the same sort of tectonic plates that the Earth does. But recently, a year and a half ago, May 2022, there was a 4.7 magnitude quake, which has been studied since by researchers. And scientists have been, just poring over the data from there, trying to figure out what it's from. And some people thought at first maybe it was from a meteor impact, but that doesn't seem to have been the case. But there's no erupting volcanoes, molten rock near the surface, and none of the tectonic plate activity, as we've said. But what the theory is that the event was likely caused by the release of stress within Mars's crust. So it's not just us. Mars is also feeling stress nowadays. And this is a result of billions of years of evolution, including the cooling and shrinking of different parts of the planet at different rates. So kind of like how after we shut our window AC unit off, you hear the plastic creak and groan a little bit as it's cooling down. This is like that on a planetary scale. Gray, what is the kind of use that researchers can gain from learning the seismic activity of Mars? Why is this interesting to us?
This is interesting for a couple of different reasons. We don't actually know what the core of Mars is right now. Being able to determine
caramel
what
and
that
nuggets
is composed of would actually help us with landing more missions on that planet. It helps us to understand celestial bodies in general. And looking at this and seeing seismic activity here, it gives us more of a clue as to what's going on. It also allows us to compare what's going on with Mars as to tectonic shifts that happen on our planet. And basically, it's just sort of a further greater understanding of the things that are in this great celestial dome that we call the sky. That was quotable.
Speaking of things in the sky, we've got some news from Starlink, the satellite service run by SpaceX, one of Elon Musk's handful of companies, and who are launching hundreds of satellites into the sky. Well, in addition to the Starlink satellite data service, they're planning on launching a cellular phone service in conjunction with T-Mobile, I guess, to provide the land bridge portion of that. But in 2024, they're going to have SMS capabilities, whereas voice and data and IoT for your cellular device, your iPhone, your Android phone, will arrive direct to cell 2025, hopefully, but SMS in 2024. So we've seen some stories with Apple and their emergency SOS, which uses a cellular connection directly from a satellite connection directly from your iPhone in emergency circumstances and very limited, mostly predetermined sort of boilerplate kind of messages that you can send. They got to keep it simple, keep it low bandwidth so it can get through quickly. I believe that service is powered by Globalstar. So we're starting to see the whole satellite realm of communication open up. No longer will you have to have a bulky satellite phone that you see on some reality TV series like Alone, where when they're tapping out, when they decide they don't want to starve themselves in the frozen tundra anymore, they tap out using a satellite phone. And my dad, as a commercial fisherman, they had VHF radio and whatnot, but in later years, they had satellite phones for emergency purposes on their ships as well. Now, Gray, as someone who enjoys the great outdoors and has played with Starlink, the data service, do you think you might be looking into something when you go out of cell range? Does this kind of service appeal to you, to be able to do SMS and other types of messaging, or does the regular Starlink kind of obviate the need for this?
Currently, I have a spot radio that does this sort of thing. It's good. This actually, I do see it as an interesting add-on. It could be one of those things where consolidating services may not be the best thing to do, but it does make it really more convenient. So, having an emergency phone has always been a priority for me. Being able to get into contact when other people can't get in contact has been a priority for me. So this, I think, will be something that I'm going to try.
Will, how about you? I know that we live on our mobile phones a fair bit nowadays. And as someone who, is a little bit of a belt and suspenders kind of guy, if there was some sort of add-on through your carrier, it doesn't sound like this would be in Canada anytime soon. Again, starting with T-Mobile partnership in the United States for SMS. How much would you be willing to pay when such a service might come to Canada to have that extra little bit of reassurance that if you were out of cell range for some reason, that worst case, you could get a message up to out to friends or loved ones for whatever reason, and via satellite? How much a month would that be worth to you?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. It doesn't. I don't encounter many instances where I'm not in cellular range, so it's not something I think about that often. I mean, if it was some sort of add-on that was fairly nominal, then I might consider it. But if it's something that's as much as $20 or $30 or $40, I probably wouldn't be all that interested. Like I said, I'm kind of a city guy. I don't really encounter very many instances. I think the last time I camped was maybe 25 years ago. So, and more power to people like Gray who want to do it, but I'm just, it ain't my bag of tea.
Right. So not a lot of dead zones in Disneyland parks?
Yeah, not a lot of dead zones in Disneyland parks. Yeah, I'm trying to think the last time I had no cell reception. I think I went up for a gig. I was doing I was an assistant camera and a PA about 10 years ago up at Barkersville. And I think we had some dead zones up there. But, at certain points we were like, oh, my light went out. Trying to film bears. Ooh, spooky.
Happy Halloween.
Happy
Where
Halloween.
Go?
For people on the audio podcast, it just got a lot darker in my house. So yeah, that was the last time I can really think about where I experienced extensive periods where I was calling my wife and just being for the 2 seconds I had cell reception, hi, how are you? You alive? I'm alive. Good. Talk to you later. So, but yeah, it's not a big feature for me. How about you, TJ?
Maybe an extra $5 or $10 a month. I'm still choked that Fido, the carrier I'm on, doesn't have an add-on for Apple Watch connectivity. So I've got the old cellular Apple Watch that I don't even get to enjoy those capabilities because I didn't really think it through when I got that. But whatever. And I have a data plan on my iPad, which is nice. If you don't feel like tethering, I might kill that at some point because I've got a pretty beefy data plan on my regular phone now. But if it was, because again, it's not the kind of thing we'd use a ton, but if you're on some remote highway and in between urban centers, and something happens. I mean, that's what Apple SOS is for, of course, but belt and suspenders, and what else can you bodysuit? I don't know. You want to keep it all together, right? Speaking of belt and suspenders, this is the part of the show where I think Will's going to use his the light on his phone to illuminate himself like this. His adoring fans can see him. All right, let's move on to a little bit of bit more. We had some Amazon adjacent news. Well, now we've got some Amazon direct news from Gray. Amazon is dipping its toes into passkeys. Refresh us, Gray. What are passkeys, and what's Amazon actually doing with them?
Passkeys are essentially
Oh, your audio cut out, Gray.
We're having a great day with technical difficulties.
Yeah, totally dead. Gray is going to.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yep, there you go. Come on back. We can hear you now.
Oh, good. Sorry, there have been some weird things happening with my computer today. Just saying that passkeys are basically an option for login. Where it passes a trusted credential between your system and the destination system, where there's no password involved. So essentially, once a passkey has been issued to that device now has access to that system without you having to enter that passkey again. They're convenient. They're better than passwords. They're better than passwords in 2FA. You can have 2FA with passkeys as well. Amazon doing this is basically
2FA being two-factor authentication.
Yes, I do beg your pardon.
For those following at home. Yeah.
Tufa. And so with
Tufa. You hear passkeys have been the whole phrase has been tossed around a fair bit in the last several months. So, I mean, how does it get set up, and then how does it get triggered when you need to authenticate, on a given website or app?
Sorry, say again. I can't hear.
How do you set up a passkey with a given app or website, and then what are you using to trigger it in lieu of a password, typing in a password?
So typically you're going to be using the operating system's passkey issuance feature. So in iOS, it's under settings. When you were looking to trigger a passkey for login, there's actually a passkey option for login where you'll be able to choose that from. It's usually a modal menu on the screen. Choose your passkey. It will select the passkey. Validate with biometrics, usually.
There we go. Okay.
Bueller, Fry.
So your Face ID, or if you're on an Android phone that has some sort of Touch ID equivalent, so fingerprint, something like that. So it's not that it's just automatically doing. You still have to prove that you're you through the biometrics, as you mentioned.
Exactly.
Gotcha. And so what's Amazon? What's their foray into this passkey initiative?
Their massive gargantuan login system has begun to make its way forwards towards using passkeys. It's being rolled out for some users. It's not a flawless implementation by any means. And some users are reporting that they switch over to passkeys and the passkey is revoked.
Oop.
Yeah.
So one of the things that they reassure users on the website is they do not store your face, your fingerprint, or your PIN data. So just so whatever you're using, whether it's an iPhone or Android phone, that stuff is all stored locally. Your biometrics are stored locally in a quote unquote secure enclave, as Apple calls it, and whatever they're calling it on the Android side of things. So Amazon is not actually getting that biometric. They're just getting the hash version that is, that activates the passkey from your device into their services, and you're good to go. And you don't have to worry about remembering passwords. Excellent. Well, so again, with any of these things, as you mentioned, it sounds like it's a little glitchy. So sometimes it's good to wait a little bit until they work the bugs out, because there's nothing more annoying than getting locked out of your Amazon account when you're trying to, do Prime Day deals or Black Friday coming up in just over a month and whatnot. So do make sure to set those things up in a non-mission critical time for you. From the Department of Weirdest announcements ever, like Apple announces entry-level Apple Pencil with USB-C charging, and that's it. Great, what's going on with the Apple Pencil, and how come there's nothing else announced alongside it?
Well, because there are new iPads coming. Yeah,
Are there?
Yeah, there are. Come on.
Why didn't they announce them on the same day? Like that seemed they're like peanut
I don't know
butter
about
and
you, but a $79 Apple Pencil with USB charging is a pretty big deal.
it was just like with the iPads. Did they not have like the hadn't they done the photo shoot for the iPads? Like I just so people are asking where the heck are those 11th gen iPads? Maybe not this month. Maybe like people have been wondering. They thought that iPads were going to be announced today, like a refresh to perhaps the entry level iPad, maybe the Air. It's been a while for the Air. The Mini's getting long in the tooth. Who knows about the Pro? The Pro's kind of overpowered for the M2 Pro's kind of overpowered for a lot of folks as it is. So while we wait for said 11th generation iPads, what are the features of this new entry level Apple Pencil? And does it add to the confusion? Because now we're at 3 Apple Pencils.
Yeah, I mean, I think the $79 price point is going to be the big differentiator for a lot of people. A lot of folks out there are going to look at it and say, you know what, I don't need the M2 capability of hover with this, because perhaps I've got an M1 iPad. Like somebody who's talking to you right now, going, "Why the hell couldn't that have been implemented on mine?" But looking at it, I've got 2 Apple Pencils already because I lost one deep in the couch cushions, and so I ended up buying a second one and only finding the first one the day before the second one arrived. So personally, I'm actually going to rush out and buy a third one because 3 times charm.
I think we have an Apple Pencil in this household. I think it's a Gen 1. I got it for Stephanie at some point, and she hasn't really used it all that much. And it's the kind of thing that I haven't bought one for myself. I haven't bought one for myself because I think it's probably the same kind of thing. Well, that would be cool to have, and probably just wouldn't get it around to using it all that much. As you know, I don't doodle a ton nowadays. I mean, I did in grade 7. I still got my scratch pad, actually a big old notepad where I spent a lot of time doodling old like video game consoles from the era. So that's how you know that we come by this honestly. So if you're interested in getting any Apple Pencil, I think the PSA, the public service announcement for folks out there, is make sure you double check what it's compatible with, because not all Apple Pencils work with all iPads. And the latest Apple Pencil has, I mean, it's got the USB-C charging, which is great, but it doesn't have necessarily all the niceties of the one that's $129. So it's nice to have a lower cost version, because Apple's not really in the business too often of lowering the cost of their existing stuff. It doesn't happen that often, although they'll bring something in underneath that's maybe a little less capable for you. And again, there was even rumors of even though the Apple Vision Pro isn't supposed to come out until quote unquote early next year, there's already rumors flying around of a lower price version that removes the creepy eyeball stuff, screens and whatnot too. So we'll see if that actually happens. So fingers crossed that there'll be actual iPads announcement this month. I just found it very strange. It's like, hey, Apple Pencil. And people are like, what? That's it? So how about we switch gears to a little bit of gaming? Again, we got to take advantage while Tasia's not here. And I've got a couple of retro gaming things for you gents just to bring to your attention. We don't need to spend a ton of time on this, but one of them is called 21st Century Roguelike Pac-Man. And it's great if you want to freeze up your Chrome web browser, as it's just done to me now. Good times. So basically what this indie developer did is kind of redesigned Pac-Man, but added more features. Instead of eating ghosts to defeat them, you now look at them and press the shoot button until their health reaches 0. So it's like Pac-Man Combat. The game now has an open world and a mini map. Pac-Man will die if his hunger meter runs out, and other features too. Again, my Chrome browser is just taking a
Did
poop
Gray
here.
check out?
Oh, what happened to Gray?
I don't know.
We're having glitches all over the place.
What
Friday
a day.
the 13th was last Friday. Lights out.
Yeah.
Oh, no video feed. And he's back. Hi again.
There he is.
We're just having a gay old time here. Will's lights and your feed and my Chrome browser. Can you hear us, Gray?
I can, yes.
Great. We can hear you too. So anyhow, if those of you who are fans of the original Pac-Man and some of its subsequent variants, including Ms. Pac-Man and Baby Pac-Man and Super Pac-Man and Pac-Land and the competitive, the four-way Pac-Man and whatnot, check out the link in our show notes for 21st Century Roguelike Pac-Man, which adds all sorts of additional features, including crafting, building, and mining, farming. Pellets can be used as currency, and even more.
Can we first go through, maybe for viewers at home, as you like to say, what a roguelike game is?
I have no idea. Why don't you tell us?
Oh, okay. Gray, do you want to chime in before or after I go into this? Oh, is he frozen?
Gray, can you hear us?
Go ahead. So basically, roguelike games are sort of, I don't have a definition in front of me, but they're kind of like dungeon crawlers where there's aspects about leveling up your character and some sort of strategic combat that's sort of like role-playing-esque. It comes from a game called, I think it was called Rogue, 30 years ago or something like that. And so it's kind of been named after that ever since. So it usually has, like I said, aspects of combat, perhaps turn-based combat, that take into sort of D&D, Dungeons and Dragons type of, so many hit points and that kind of thing, and leveling up your character, collecting items, and going on a quest.
Well, I learned something today, and that's why we do this show, to learn from each other.
I work for a video game company.
Go figure. I thought roguelike was just a cool thing to call it, but that's an actual trope in video games. Super cool.
It's almost like a genre. It's like a set of systems or expectations that you'll expect. Like I said, it often has turn-based combat, although I don't think that's this sounds like this is turn-based combat. This isn't, like, that's not necessarily necessary. Not necessarily necessary. That's a horrible sentence. But it's often a feature.
So again, if you're interested in this, you can go and play it in the web browser, but your mileage may vary. Chrome. But you can also download the exe executable file for Windows. There is a version for Linux, because it's the year of Linux on the desktop, maybe 2023, and also a version for Mac. So I actually downloaded it on Mac and played around. It's fun. Again, it's like Pac-Man, except you get to shoot the ghosts and do much, much more. So that is Roguelike Pac-Man, 21st Century Roguelike Pac-Man. Find that link in our show notes. In addition, while we're talking about like reimagining classic games, there's a game called it's called A Little Game Called Mario. And again, this is another thing where Mario has kind of been reimagined. It's known as an open source collective hell game. And you get into this game and it looks vaguely like Mario, except he's been sort of redesigned a little bit, maybe for copyright reasons. And you do Mario type things. There's probably some other controls I'm not clear on here. You can go through all these wormholes and do stuff. I haven't had much of a chance to play with it, but Will, being our official Super Mario correspondent, I guess you go to these wormholes and do things in these different levels. And I'm not really good at my job here, but I hope that Will, you get a chance to try this, because it's like a different take on Mario, and it's kind of open source, and you end up with mini games. And now I'm not Mario anymore. I'm like a little pink amoeba type character trying to do something, and I don't even know what I'm doing because I'm old. Oh, I'm pushing blocks around. Anyhow, that is open source collective hell game. Can you tell me what a collective hell game is? That kind of like a roguelike thing that we should know about as well?
Oh, I don't know what a collective hell game is. I could quickly Google it, but
Gray, any input there?
No, is it just... I think it's a hell game with a union.
Yeah.
I see what you did there.
Hell game with benefits.
There we go.
So if you're interested in that, you can check it out. It's on itch.io. The link is in our show notes, and you play that in your old web browser there.
There does seem to be a whole genre, and I sometimes send them to you, Tristan, of people doing like Mario level creator, or I think I forget the name of the video game. It's like
Well, there's that one thing you sent me
Mario.
yesterday, which shows like super stressful Mario, where it's like all sorts of stuff
about
going on with
hellscape.
like the fiery windmill things, and like the playthrough there was like, it was very stressful.
Yeah, so that's
and that was done with like a level creator.
Yeah, so there was, I mean, maybe some of this is also people who are, hacking things, but there was a Mario game where you could design levels, and so I think a lot of that comes from that. And it seems to be a thing just to create like you say, a hellscape, and then figure out how to get through it. So yeah, there's some guys on like Instagram and various social media where it's just amazing. The kind of pinpoint precision. And again, it's like those basketball trick shots. You're probably not seeing the 75 million times they didn't get through it. You're seeing the one time where they did a perfect run. But yeah.
We have a link from there's a Washington Post story on that. This Mario Maker level is the most stressful video game clip you will ever seen. Yeah.
Mario Maker. That's the name of the game.
So that one was, when was that posted? Washington Post, probably. 2019. So yeah, that's just over 4 years ago. But wow, I hadn't seen it before, and that is, is epic. So we've got more retro gaming goodness today, and was it? What is time? Was it a year ago? 2 years ago? I think it was almost 2 years ago. A company called Analogue released something called the Pocket, and the Pocket was basically looked like a Game Boy, but it had this modular system whereby you could replace its brains and with various sort of FPGAs, so custom chips to basically emulate on the hardware level, not on the software level. Like on the hardware level, you're reprogramming these chips to be like basically a Game Boy or a game. I think Sega Game Gear is one of the other options. There's a whole bunch of different things that you could plug into this Analog Pocket device. Well, and it's very, very slick. The industrial design was really on point. Lots of accessories to kit out your little device. But now they're revisiting consoles. I think they'd done some other consoles previously, where they're making a 4K Nintendo 64. So finally, we can play GoldenEye in 4K on what's going to be known as the Analogue 3D. They're just teasing it so far. There's not even any images. It's supposed to be coming out in 2024. They're claiming 100% compatibility due to the FPGA angle. Just a very little tease, the corner image of an image there of what the console might look like. So, Gray, you've had a number of different consoles in the past, both current and slightly retro. I remember you had the Ouya at one point as well too. How interested are you in a device that is basically emulating a console from 25 years ago, but with a few modern conveniences like digital output, up-resing? I think did we talk about the Atari 2600 Plus, which is coming out later this year too, which is basically an Atari VCS or 2600 that's got HDMI output and it's scaled down to 80%, and you can use cartridges in it though. So same kind of thing here. Like, would you prefer just to get the original console and deal with its limitations and use the cartridges in that, or something that's a bit jazzed up for 2024?
I think it's actually more than just jazzed up, because when we're looking at systems like this, the HDMI output is actually so incredibly important. We're looking at games that have issues with timing. You simply cannot get a modern LCD or LED or OLED to give you the same sort of response that a CRT would, with the same sort of quality. Emulators aren't hacking it, so these things do fill a role, and it's incredibly important. So would I buy one of these to do this? Yes, I would. I didn't have a Nintendo 64 at all, so this is my first time around with this one. I'm actually kind of excited.
This is the problem. It's momentous. Empty your pockets.
Yeah.
How about you, Will? How do you feel on the the classic console or the updated versions for
Sure.
the modern features like Gray alludes to and the benefits they bring, especially when you're trying to use with a modern TV?
I mean, I often have both. I mean, I have some of the classic consoles, and I buy
This
some of
week
the
on Bad with
reissues.
Money.
Exactly. I mean, we have the mini Nintendo, we have the mini Sega Genesis that came out a few years ago from Sega. I have this. Let me see here. I have this sort of system here where it's actually like a retro cabinet, and it's got a bunch of Sega games in it that were only in arcade. So the big one in it is it's got Golden Axe 3, the Death Adder or whatever it is, which was never released on home consoles, and it's got HDMI out. So that's pretty much the feature why I got it, so that I can play that game. So I spent $150 to play one game that's 35 years old. So, bad with money. Well, I mean, it has other games like Alex Kidd and Columns and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I bought it for Golden Axe, an obscure game that not too many people remember. Yeah, I mean, I love these type of things. I'm all in. Like Gray, I never owned a Nintendo 64. I played it a lot. I have a little bit of a story with Nintendo 64 in that when I was a teenager, my mother got cancer, and I guess just with everything going on, my dad's like, here's some money, just go rent something. So I rented a Nintendo 64 for a week, and just sort of threw my pain into playing video games and distracting myself. And so I have a special memory just with that, with trying to get my mind off things. So I often say that I mean, I think gameplay wise it's held up, but graphics that it didn't hold up was Super Mario 64. I still think is one of the best games of all time. It's in my top 5 favorite games of all time, but the graphics just look so polygonal and janky. So if there was an up-res version of that, I think that the gameplay is still there. It was very innovative. I love that game. So yeah, I'm all in on this.
And to your point, and the one that Gray made too, the whole idea of having an HDMI out is really helpful if you're trying to use it with a modern TV, because not everyone clutters up their house with 27-inch CRTs that they rescued from their grandmother's house, or goes to a place like RePC in Seattle. I don't think I told that story. They have this. I was at this kind of a few weeks ago when we were in Seattle. There's this kind of warehousey type place, and they have like dozens of old, flat panel TVs, CRTs, computers, oscilloscopes, stereo equipment. And they have a little computer, like a vintage computer museum in the corner. You could spend an entire day just rummaging around in there. But one of the things they did, they had 2 Sony Trinitron 36-inch CRTs there that are kind of like the gold standard for retro gaming and are really in demand. And they're only like 100 or 150 bucks. But I swear I think they're probably like 300 or 400 pounds. So good luck, getting that into your vehicle and getting that home. But if you want the authentic experience, there you go. What is this you're sending me, Will?
Oh, that's the system that I was, the little gaming thing that I was,
SEGA Astro City Mini. Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So this is like a mini version of what's often in arcades. It's very common in Japanese arcades, these sort of cabinets and they put different games into them. So it doesn't really matter what the cabinet looks like. It's different games inside. Gotcha. But yeah.
And how many games can you have on it?
Oh, I mean, it's got a set number of games. I think it's like, okay. Oh yeah, it's 37.
Gotcha.
So if you scroll down, it's got a list of all the games, but yeah. So
wow.
There we go.
Altered Beast and a bunch I've never heard of. Virtual Fighter, Wonder Boy. Okay. Shinobi. Nice.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of a Nintendo 64 story, but it's not quite as grave. Is that I think it was in the summer of 1996 at the PNE, before the Nintendo 64 was released in North America. It came out in June in Japan, but they had a demo. I think it was the summer of 96. It could have been 95. I don't know if they were demoing it in 95, but they had a little pavilion where they had demo units of the Nintendo 64 running the Japanese software. So we got to play Super Mario 64 in the Japanese version. And at that time, for a home console, it was like, wow, this is great. Like, especially for a Nintendo console, because they hadn't really done the 3D thing at that point yet. So that was pretty exciting. But the one twist to that story is that, of course, we went to Playland, so for the amusement park rides and whatnot. But I had gastroenteritis that day, and if you know what that is, it's you kind of want to poop your pants. And going on rides and playing video games, it's like, oh. So I was popping a lot of Imodium that
As
day.
Mama Silver used to say, you were slippy sloppy down the back passage.
And we've been canceled.
Yes. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. That was English.
Just people are just disgusted. All right. Perfect. Now, last up in our retro gaming corner, and we've lost Gray again.
Yeah.
We're glitching hard today.
I think his Wi-Fi is retro.
So back in September, it was the 10th anniversary of the emulation section on the Internet Archive. So if you go to archive.org, for years, decades, they've had archives of web pages, snapshots of web pages for, I think at least 20 years. And a lot of people like to support Wikipedia. And Wikipedia does a lot of fundraising. Wikipedia's got a ton of money. If you want to donate to anything that's internet related, donate to the Internet Archive, because they are doing the Lord's work there in preserving everything from vintage operating systems, computer operating systems that you can run in a web browser, classic video games, magazines, like all sorts of stuff. And we'll include a link to the show notes. There's like a treasure trove of things that you can play. They even have calculator emulators for some people, folks that were big into scientific calculators. I just wanted to include that as a link and a bit of a postscript to some of our retro gaming discussion here. The Internet Archive, even if you don't have hardware to play these things on, a lot of the stuff you can play in the web browser right on your computer. Probably better than, say, a tablet or a smartphone, just because of the controls. You could use keyboard controls on the computer. But if you've, we have so many things competing for our attention nowadays. But find a little time for the Internet Archive. Okay, now we move on to, speaking of the physical world. Mm-hmm. This is something that makes me a little sad, a little angry. Yeah. Best Buy is planning to rid itself of DVDs and Blu-ray discs. Mm-hmm. However, they will be keeping physical game media. Now, I imagine this is just due to sales and competition. People buy physical media, Blu-rays and DVDs. Those are still buying regular DVDs online. Amazon, for example. Amazon wasn't always the cheapest, though, and I would often buy stuff at Best Buy. They would often have Best Buy exclusive steelbooks for collectors.
Yes.
So there's 1,129 Best Buy stores, 969 in the US. And DVDs are going, it says it's unclear if Blu-rays will also be removed at this time. So I get it if they're ditching DVDs, because they are getting pretty old at this time. But if they get rid of Blu-rays, I don't know, man. And especially if they get rid of the custom steelbooks. I get it. Money talks, and there's, if you look, even the sticker price,
space, right?
Yeah,
it takes space. Keeping that stuff.
Well, in the sections, they used to carry tons of music CDs, for example. Yeah. They ditched those sections several years ago, and now the movie sections have gotten smaller and smaller and smaller as time's gone on. So it's just a question of time. But what I want to know is, at what point do movies on physical media like DVDs and Blu-rays become retro? Are we going to have to wait 20 years and they'll come back again, like we've seen with vinyl, and in some cases even cassettes?
So what, you didn't ask me, but I'll respond. So what I would say about this is I'm a physical media person. I'm not going to say that I have everything on physical media, but I believe in it. And DVDs are old. Yeah. Okay. Definitely video games, Blu-rays. I believe in buying them, especially if you like the format. And the reason I'll say is that you never know when it's going to go away. You never know when you don't have access to it, even if you bought it. Nintendo has taken stuff off their store if you've bought a version of it. I've bought apps that have disappeared or ceased to be updated. I was watching Strange New Worlds, and Paramount canceled their deal with Shaw, and it was no longer on Shaw on Demand and only available through Paramount.
And that's one of our cable providers here in Canada,
Yeah.
which has since been acquired by Rogers, just for our international listeners.
Yes. So it was no longer available on demand through my cable box for free. Well, not free because I pay for cable, but
They get to pay for something else.
Yeah, it was one thing that was just taken away. Netflix takes things off Netflix all the time. Marvel things were taken off. So, and then yeah, you can still access Marvel, but you need a subscription to Disney Plus. So this is one of those things where if you like it, you got to put a ring on it, and a ring is a disc. So
wow, that was poetic.
Yeah,
it's a literal ring.
A literal ring.
And you could probably fit it on your pinky finger too.
I think you could. I think you could. So yeah, if you like it, buy the disc. And actually you just showed limited run games that they're for profit, but they're also doing the Lord's work in the sense that games that you might not expect, or older games, ones that are considered cult classics, like one of the ones they released recently was old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games. Also, the new Shredder's Revenge game, and they created a physical media version of it because, many of the other, even if it's being released now, they might not decide that there's really a market to mass produce it. So limited run will say, hey, how about we do a limited run and make it an exclusive and make them steelbooks and make them orange and do a special cover and lenticular and all this kind of stuff. But the thing is, it comes with a disc. So, and they do them in all sorts of formats. So they do them in Nintendo Switch. They do them in Xbox of various flavors and varieties, PlayStation, all the fun stuff. So yeah, I mean, they're even when they're a small indie thing, there might be a physical disc of it, and it is worth checking out Limited Run and other companies like that are creating some of these physical media. If you're interested in it, of course.
And there was the I'm just trying to remember. Remember I got you the Stray on for the PS5. And that's another it's a similar company that does those physical editions.
Yes.
Remember what the name is. It's some I Am 8-bit.
Yes. And like I was sort of indicating, there's not just Limited Run. That's just the one that comes to the top of mind. But and of course, I think Xbox is still making stuff and PlayStation is still making stuff.
Oh, for sure.
But for their big titles, for smaller titles like Stray was more of a download exclusive. You'd have to go through I Am 8-bit or something like that, even though it's a new game. And we really like our physical edition of Stray. It was a nice case. There was a great story behind it from the person who got it. Which we won't go into here. But yeah, so I mean, there are people still making physical media out there if you're interested. I'm not going to say it's everything that's being released, but you can still get things on physical media if you're so interested. And I really recommend supporting companies like this or Limited Run, but also if you like something, buy it physically because you never know when it's going to go away.
Yeah, thanks to the expiration dates on licensing deals, as you alluded to, we saw a lot of Marvel stuff disappear from Netflix, for example. It's interesting, a little phenomenon right now with the writers' strike, which has since been resolved, but there's still an actors' strike, and given that production schedules, a lot of things are being pushed into the future. Apparently what's happening is that there's a lot of renegotiation of deals happening. And so some older stuff might be coming back to Netflix again, just to keep people occupied while, if there's a little dip in new content. But I agree. Like it's interesting. We've had some conversations with other friends as well about how, there are certain things, especially your very favorite things. There's something special about just actually owning it, and no one can take it from you. As long as you have something that can play it, be it a DVD player or a Blu-ray player, or turntable, CD player, what have you, depending on the type of medium, then you're not subject to the whims of licensing deals or geo-locking content or that sort of thing. You can put it on whenever you want.
I think we brought this up a couple of shows ago, but we were talking to my friend or your friend, Zach, and he was talking about how, one of his all-time favorite shows was very special to him, was the Wonder Years, and they have not made a version of that except like the complete version of the show, and they don't re-show it because of licensing agreement with music. So they released one version, 20 some odd years ago on like Time Life DVD or something, and he bought it for an extraordinary amount of money in Portland because they've just never made another version of it, and it's not available anywhere because of licensing agreement. It would just be a nightmare to figure it out. So then there's all sorts of shows like that where music is an important part, and they've had to stop running it or cut out large segments. So
we just learned breaking news that Gray had a power outage, and that's why he suddenly dropped off there. So hopefully we've got some inclement weather here in the Metro Vancouver area today. We've been really lucky, even in our 86, no, it's not 86, yeah, it's an 87-year-old house. Our house is pretty old. We have very few power outages, but even so, speaking of belt and suspenders from earlier on, we've got UPSs on all our key things, like our internet modem or our fiber optic connection and our Wi-Fi router, and certain key things, anything with a hard drive like PVRs and whatnot, because we've learned the hard way when there's been power outages, and sometimes it can crash hard drives. So yes.
I was going to say, I just want to be clear for those at home who are either watching this or listening to this, that my lights going out was just due to my irresponsibility of not charging my thing, not any kind of inclement weather conditions that knocked out power resources. So I still have power. I'm just irresponsible. So that's the difference there.
Tonight on Momentous Confessions.
Yeah.
In the spirit of transparency, I appreciate that, Will. That's but imagine if you had a power outage and you had all the UPSs of the battery backups to be able to continue live streaming.
Mm-hmm.
Epic. So we gotta get Gray
priorities, right?
Exactly. So with that in mind, there's a couple things we will bump until a future episode because
sounds good.
They may be Gray appropriate. But let's get to our momentous picks, and then
cool.
We can put a fork in this, or stick
put
a fork
sock
in
it.
What's your pick of the momentous pick this week there, William?
It is Loki season 2. And I mean, we're still early. We're only 2 episodes in. I'm really enjoying it. I don't know about you if you're caught up, and no spoilers, but there's some characters who come in. There's some stuff that happens. And anyone complaining about shows like Ahsoka on Disney Plus that were slow, or some people complain about The Mandalorian, the show is not slow. It basically there's a world, time, space, and multiverse problem that happens in the first episode. Stuff gets real right away. Wow.
And it might even be worth going and rewatching season 1 because there's some stuff like, what's that again? Because
I've heard that a lot. People who are like, I totally forgot the last season.
Yeah.
And it basically starts right where the last one took off. No, there's a recap before the title credits, but it doesn't fully get you into what's going on.
They missed some key things. I'm like, wait, what? But we saw, so there's the I guess the fallout from their engagement with Kang the Conqueror at the end of last season, and we've got Sylvie, which is basically another version of Loki, and they kind of have a thing. It's sort of a
Yeah, he's in love with
quasi.
himself. Yeah.
Yeah, he's in love with. Yeah, it's kind of a strange dynamic, quite frankly. But narcissism is a thing.
As I often say, it's the best Doctor Who that's been out in years.
Exactly. And some amazing production design and set design. We've got Sylvie visiting and maybe even working at a McDonald's from what year is it? 1977 or something like that?
No, 82 or
82,
something.
right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the year of the Atari 5200, I think.
Ah.
So yeah, we're enjoying it so far. I think we are. Is there another? They're releasing them on Tuesday. What day of the week are they releasing?
Wednesday.
Wednesdays.
Thursday,
Okay, because we've seen 2 so far.
Okay, yeah, I think there's only 2 out right now.
And there's lots going on, and it's nice to see. This isn't really a real spoiler, but the return of Loki's magic, right? So he's doing a bit more hocus pocus again, which is of course key to his
because his magic is in the world which a lot of this takes place. He's not able to use his magic
in the TVA, right?
Yeah.
So when they go to Earth or whatever, I mean, where even is the TVA?
The world between worlds.
Yeah, exactly. It's the Time Variance Authority. That's what it stands for.
Yeah.
So we're quite enjoying it ourselves as well, and look forward to seeing where it goes. And Loki was one of the stronger of the Marvel TV series to date, along with WandaVision, like we've discussed.
All-star writing, all-star cast, all-star production, all-star filming. It's just well done. I mean, it's still early. They could still muck up the season, but so far I'm really enjoying it.
And some new cast members as well. So
yes,
we talked about previously, but we're just check it out to see more detail. My pick of the week, my momentous pick, speaking of physical media, a couple of weeks ago we rewatched Tenet.
I've never seen it.
Oh, dude.
It was during the blip, and then it was one of these things where a bunch of people went and saw it, and then we're like, I like it. I think I don't know what it's about, and so I never ended up seeing it. I had a lot of just concerns because I have family members who are vulnerable to illnesses, so I didn't go to the theater and see it, but maybe I should check it out, especially if you have a copy.
Yeah, well, Christopher Nolan, and it's got some Christopher Nolan hijinks in there, including barely audible dialogue, which everyone always loves. But I think we watched it with subtitles this time, closed captioning, so that actually helped. Especially the muffled scenes, and it's the kind of movie that it benefits from additional viewings, because this is one where they play with time quite a bit, forwards and backwards, and there's a reason for it. Nolan likes to play with time, and John David Washington, who plays the protagonist, is in it. He's the lead. We've also got Robert Pattinson as well, and Kenneth Branagh and others. It's a great cast. The acting's good, and it's definitely ambitious. How Elizabeth Debicki is in it too. She played Princess Diana, one version of Princess Diana in the Crown on Netflix. She is very tall, and so I definitely worth checking out. It's on various streaming services, but we got the physical copy on Steelbook, which is Best Buy exclusive. Best Buy, don't give up, please. And it's in 4K. Unfortunately, we've got we have the PS5 for 4K, but we still don't have any 4K TVs. But the sound is great too. Again, one thing you get with something like Blu-ray, regular Blu-ray, or especially 4K Blu-ray, is the increased fidelity, and both video and audio fidelity. Much less in the way of compression. So if you've got the right kind of home theater system, you're going to get the full audio visual experience, because when you're watching things through streaming services, stuff gets compressed, especially you're talking about 4K, trying to push 4K through those pipes. We're getting better broadband connections at home, but there are still compression schemes to save data, if nothing else, on the part of the streaming companies. So you're always going to have a bit of a compromised final product. Whereas with something like Blu-ray, you get the full uncompressed audio and less compression on the video. So Tenet by Christopher Nolan on Blu-ray disc. That's my momentous pick this week.
Awesome.
And now on to our momentous projects. You've been busy making more beats, Will?
I have. I have to tell you, I'm super, super honored and pleased with this one. It's not a project that I started. I was brought on to the project. So it's called So Fresh Looper 1. It's tied into a product release from a product called So Fresh Slots. And they create sort of, what would you call them, pouches or containers for records, particularly control vinyl that's used for DVS systems. So that's the way that your laptop can control a turntable or a record player. And so they create these for like professional DJs. They're like shielded and padded and all that. So they created a exclusive So Fresh slot with Invisible Scratch Pickles, who in my little corner of the world, in terms of scratching and beats and DJing, are pretty much the Beatles. They are the authority. Members include DJ Qbert, Shortcut, D Styles, and he doesn't do as much with them anymore, but people might know Mixmaster Mike if they don't know anyone else. He was the DJ for BC Boys. There's actually a song written about him. He's actually done DJing for groups like Cypress Hill and Rage Against the Machine and Metallica. He's opened up for Metallica for a couple years. So they're pretty much in my genre of music. They're considered, legends, gods, whatever you want to call it. They put 19 loops on this looper, which is part of a battle to promote the So Fresh Looper slot. And I put 3 loops on this looper as well. There's 30 loopers total. My friend Steve Four and also Genius put some beats on there as well. Kilojoule, who's Canadian, she's great. And everyone on this, Spores, Kodiak Visual, they're just great beat producers. I'm super honored. I also helped arrange these and get them ready. So mastered them a little bit, made sure they all looped, made sure that there wasn't sort of any issues with them. And I'm super thrilled with the results. And it's a real feather in my cap, you might say. And it's just a big honor. And just regardless of whether I'm on it or not, or was involved, it's super awesome that there's a looper with their beats on it, and that their beats are awesome. They're one of my biggest influences from a beat standpoint. So I was super happy to be involved with this.
Sweet. So just forgive me, these the first 19 tracks, they're like in all caps, invisible scratch pickles. What are those? Are those loops as well, or what are they?
Those are all loops. So that's their 19 loops are all that.
They just didn't name them.
It's a thing.
Okay.
So that was one of the, when you deal with artists. So yeah,
they didn't want like them Aphex Twin.
On Table Beats, we just put a number. They forced us to put a title. So it's just Invisible Scratch Pickles 1, Invisible Scratch Pickles 2, Invisible Scratch Pickles 3. So they didn't want individuals from the group acknowledged. They wanted it all to be as Invisible Scratch Pickles, and they didn't want names of the tracks. They just wanted them nameless. So Tableless.net was able to fulfill that. But as part of the way that it's encoded on Table Beats, it was impossible to not do it.
So check it out at tableless.net. And my project this week, that's super cool that you're just more and more collaborations, and I'm really excited for you to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Our missing, one of our two missing quarters. We had
Yeah.
Gray for half the show, but Tasia, who should be back next week. Oh yeah, because I'm so great at my job. Last week I forgot to do the our projects.
Oh no.
If anyone noticed, and so we've got two videos from Tasia. One iPhone 15 Pro 2 weeks later, and she also did a video on new Google Bard extensions, how to connect Google Bard to your Google apps. So you can find Tasia's work at youtube.com/Tasia Custodi or www.tasiacustodi.com. And then, so we have 2 weeks of AI Name This Show as well. That's Tasia's and my little side project that we've had 2 episodes since we last talked about it. One, October 6th, AI Surveillance, Spies in the Wires.
Dun, dun, dun.
And I was so excited because Spies in the Wires is actually the name of a Cabaret Voltaire song from 1984. So I got to throw that in there and share it with my fellow Cabaret Voltaire nerds in the Facebook group. And then we episode 9. How many? What are we at now? Yeah. And no, sorry, that was episode 7. Yeah. So that was the whole shtick there. It was because it was episode 7 or episode 007. We talked about AI surveillance and the role of AI in espionage and the brewing digital Cold War. And then for episode 8, do you welcome our new AI robot overlords, where we talked about AI, embodied AI in robots of different shapes and sizes, focusing on the humanoid ones and including some much needed updates to the Tesla Optimus robot, which you may recall when they first announced it was just basically a person in a spandex suit. They've actually come a long way since then, believe it or not.
It's another reason why I hate Elon Musk, is he's such a troll.
But then it just takes a matter. It's just a matter of time. They're delivering, and they got this thing like autonomously sorting blocks, and it doesn't seem like a big deal. But the motion is so fluid, and it's just like sorting green blocks and blue blocks into the correct containers, writing them when they're on their side. The human is intervening and kind of trying to screw up the robot, and he's rolling with the flow. And it's just wild to see, because we talked about some a robot from Toyota as well that could do all sorts of kitchen stuff, could basically make you pancakes. It's a really interesting space. And then what we do on most episodes is recap some of the top AI news too, so that you can find that stuff at ainamedthisshow.com. And you can find out more about us here at momentus.tv. That's so well, we did it.
Awesome.
Just the two of us. Hopefully Tasia will be back next week. Hopefully Gray's Power will be back very soon, and that we will have him join us again next week. But until then, we hope your week is truly momentous.